to Gridiron Ring, a sports talk show covering football and professional wrestling. I'm your host, Encyclopedia Sports, Geaux Luke 96. Week 1 of college football almost in the books. Still got one more game here this evening, Labor Day night, Notre Dame, Louisville coming up here at 8 o'clock this evening. So I'm going to go over everything that happened this past weekend minus that game. I have Louisville. I picked Louisville in that game, so I have the Cardinals defeating the Fighting Irish here coming up very shortly. It's about a quarter late right now, so this game will probably get underway while I'm recording, so I might have some play-by-play later on in this audio recording for my Week 1 recap and Week 2 predictions of college football. Also, keep an eye out for my NFL Week 1 predictions. Go check out my NFL preview for the year as well if you haven't done so already. But Notre Dame and Louisville, they play this evening coming up here very shortly. But I'm going to go over everything that happened this past weekend, minus that game, as I said, and then preview Week 2, and then also record for NFL Week 1. So be sure to go check that out, as I just mentioned. Also, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Gridiron Ring and myself, Geaux Luke 96, on social media if you haven't done so already. The links are in the description below. So like, follow, and subscribe Gridiron Ring and myself, Geaux Luke 96. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Subscribe right here on YouTube. And follow me over on Periscope, Geaux Luke 96. I was on this past weekend for Idaho and Penn State, and then AEW, All Elite Wrestling, All Out later on Saturday night. I will be on Periscope once again this upcoming weekend. On Thursday, NFL 100 kicks off with Packers and Bears on Thursday night on NBC. So I'll be on Periscope doing live reactions, play-by-play of that game as the 100th season in the National Football League will begin in Chicago at Soldier Field. Also, this Saturday night at 7:30, Buffalo will head right here to Happy Valley to play the Penn State Nittany Lions as the Buffaloes and the Penn State Nitwits face off once again. Also at 7:30, there's going to be a big game in college football. LSU will play at Texas, so I'll have both of those games on at once. As I had said this past weekend, I now have a 2 TV setup. I can watch 2 games at once for football, 2 events at once for football and professional wrestling. So WWE Clash of Champions coming up here in a couple weeks. Monday Night Raw going to be getting underway here very shortly as well. So I'll have some play-by-play of that too. I heard that Braun Strowman and the Universal Champion Seth frickin' Rollins will be kicking off the show in a Universal Championship contract signing for their match at Clash of Champions in less than 2 weeks now. Also, a new episode of Firefly Funhouse they did advertise for Monday Night Raw this evening. So yeah, as I said, just going to recap college football and then preview the next week, and then also record here afterwards and record for NFL Week 1. So be sure to keep an eye out for that video. But 2 games on Saturday I'll be watching when I'm on Periscope. Buffalo, Penn State, LSU, Texas, and then this upcoming Sunday, the first official Sunday of the NFL season in 2019 at 1 o'clock. Titans-Browns will be on in my area at 1 o'clock on CBS. So I'll be watching that game on Periscope. Be watching that game in the man cave here and doing live reactions, play-by-play over on Periscope, Geaux Luke 96. Be sure to follow if you haven't done so already. Also at 1 o'clock, since I have the 2 TV setup now, I'll be watching Fox and have the Redskins-Eagles game on at the same time. And then later on in the night, Sunday Night Football, the first Sunday Night Football game of the year, Steelers-Patriots. And then also next Monday, the first Monday Night Football game of the season, Texans at the Saints. I'll be doing live reactions, play-by-play of all those games this upcoming weekend over on Periscope, Geaux Luke 96. So be sure to tune in. And if you tuned in this past weekend, thank you very much. Every little bit helps. So now recap Week 1 of college football and then dive into Week 2, which is headlined by Texas A&M and Clemson and LSU and Texas. So last Thursday night, Cincinnati defeated UCLA 24-14. Turnovers cost the Bruins the game, in my opinion. There's a couple drives. UCLA got inside the 20, ended up turning the ball over, ended up losing by 10 points because those drives that they turned the ball over on, Cincinnati ended up capitalizing and putting points on the board. So Cincinnati defeated UCLA at home 24-14. Oh, by the way, coming into Monday night here this evening, right before the Notre Dame Louisville game. I went 17-5 in my predictions during week 1 of college football, minus the Notre Dame Louisville game. So Cincinnati victors over the UCLA Bruins 24-14. The defending national champion Clemson Tigers rolled over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets 52-14. Utah won the Holy War for the 9th straight year. Utah defeated BYU 30-12. Michigan State defeated Tulsa 28-7. Wisconsin, the Badgers ran all over the South Florida Bulls behind Jonathan Taylor's 135 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns by a final score of 49-0. Nevada, they won on a game-winning 56-yard field goal by a true freshman kicker over the Purdue Boilermakers 34-31. Colorado defeated Colorado State 52-31. The Lane Train came to a halt in Columbus. The Ohio State Buckeyes defeated Florida Atlantic 45-21. Memphis defeated Ole Miss 15-10 for the second time in 5 years. Big win for the AAC over the SEC. Alabama defeated Duke 42-3. Crimson Tide rolled past the Blue Devils down in Atlanta as Tua Tagovailoa had 336 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Penn State mashed potatoes over Idaho. Penn State defeated the Idaho Vandals 79-7 behind 7 rushing touchdowns. The North Carolina Tar Heels defeated South Carolina 24-20 and Mac Brown's return to the sideline. Stanford also defeated Northwestern 17-7 out on the farm, but could be without their quarterback KJ Costello for a while as he went out with an injury. Boston College defeated Virginia Tech 35-28 in an early season ACC showdown. Boise State defeated Florida State 36-31 after the Seminoles blew a 18-point lead as the Boise State Broncos picked up their first ever win in the state of Florida. That game was actually scheduled for Saturday night at 7 o'clock, but got moved up to noon and moved to Tallahassee, so it was a home game for Florida State, and they still lost by 5 points to Boise State. Got moved to Tallahassee and up to noon because of Hurricane Dorian that is hitting Florida as I speak and going to be coming up the East Coast. Michigan defeated Middle Tennessee State 40-21. Auburn victors over Oregon 27-21 on a game-winning 26-yard touchdown pass from the true freshman quarterback Bo Nix. Wyoming over Missouri 37-31. Virginia over Pitt 30-14. Texas defeated Louisiana Tech 45-14 and will now host LSU on Saturday night. That is where College Game Day will be at this weekend. That game will be at 7:30 on ABC. USC defeated Fresno State 31-23, but are now without quarterback JT Daniels for the season due to a torn ACL. Oklahoma over Houston last night 49-31. Jalen Hurts, the Alabama transfer quarterback, had 6 total touchdowns, 3 passing and 3 rushing. And now Notre Dame and Louisville just got underway, so that game is currently on ESPN. That game, as today is Labor Day night now, just past 8 o'clock here on the East Coast in the good old US of A. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are playing at the Louisville Cardinals, and as I said, I picked Louisville to win. I said game-winning field goal to close out week 1, so we'll have to see how this game goes. Notre Dame gets the ball to start here, as it's going to be Ian Book versus Jawan Pass, and Brian Kelly versus Scott Satterfield as well. Satterfield's first game as the Cardinal head coach, leaving Appalachian State, App State, after being in Boone, North Carolina for the past 6 seasons, leaving his alma mater to go to Louisville. So Notre Dame and Louisville just got underway, but that's what happened so far during week 1. I'll probably talk about Notre Dame and Louisville sometime this upcoming weekend over on Periscope, so be sure to tune in to the live streams on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this upcoming weekend. And now I'll get into my week 2 college football picks. We'll start off down in the Commonwealth of Virginia with the William & Mary Tribe and the Virginia Cavaliers. The Tribe will travel west from Williamsburg to Charlottesville to play the Cavs. Virginia coming off a big win over Pitt last weekend in the Steel City 30-14, as I mentioned earlier. Give me Wahoos over the Tribe, FCS, FBS, Virginia over William & Mary. The thundering herd of Marshall will travel out to the blue turf of Boise State, out in Boise, Idaho, to play the Broncos. Boise State coming off a big road win to start the year off over Florida State this past weekend. Marshall 1-0 as well. Probably the best early season non-Power 5 matchup. Marshall and Boise State. Both teams could very well be in it late in the year, outside the top 15 as the best non-Power 5 school. I said at the beginning of the year, my pick for that was Boise State. So I'm going to pick Boise State to defeat Marshall because they are playing at home on that blue turf, also on Friday night. Battle of the Buckeye State, Cincinnati, and Ohio State at noon on Saturday. Give me Ohio State. Going to be a little hard to pick against them. Cincinnati, they did look somewhat well, I guess you could say, last week versus UCLA. UCLA still should have won that game, I thought, even though I did pick them. It might sound biased a little bit. UCLA just shot themselves in the foot too many times, and Cincinnati capitalized. Ohio State does the same thing. Well, Buckeyes might be 1-1 after this weekend, but Ohio State playing at home in the shoe against the Cincinnati Bearcats, led by former Ohio State Buckeye and assistant Luke Fickell. So Ohio State, though, I still think will pick up the win over the Cincinnati Bearcats. The Army Black Knights will go to the Big House of Ann Arbor, Michigan, to play the Michigan Wolverines on Saturday at noon as well. Give me Big Blue. Michigan, they looked powerful over Middle Tennessee State this past weekend. I know they only won by 3 touchdowns. First game of the season, though. So still everybody is working the kinks out. And Michigan and Ohio State will probably both be in it. Along with Penn State and Michigan State, hopefully, to make the Big Ten East race very exciting come late in the year. But both Ohio State and Michigan, I think, will win at home on Saturday. Ohio State over Cincinnati and Michigan over Army. Upset, though, between those two, it would have to be Cincinnati over Ohio State, because Cincinnati also one of those best non-Power 5 schools this season during College Football 150. The Syracuse Orange will travel to College Park, Maryland, to play the Terrapins of Maryland. Syracuse defeated Liberty this past week. Hugh Freeze, the Liberty coach, coached from a hospital bed in a press box suite because he just had back surgery. So he wasn't even on the field, and Syracuse shut out Liberty on the road. Now have to go to Maryland. So they've been down in the DMV area here as of late to open the season. Syracuse, I think, will win once again and start off 2-0 before hosting Clemson next week, a team that they beat in the Carrier Dome 2 years ago on a Friday night, and then last year in Death Valley almost came away with a win on the road. Now will host the Clemson Tigers, the defending national champions, once again next weekend, Saturday Night Football, 7:30 on ABC. I would assume College Game Day will be there, depending on what happens this weekend with Syracuse and Maryland. And as I said earlier, Clemson hosts Texas A&M, a game Texas A&M almost won last year over the Tigers. Clemson pulled away and won by 2 late. Also in the Commonwealth of Virginia, a team in Old Dominion who defeated the Virginia Tech Hokies last year in Norfolk. Virginia Tech will try to get revenge, though, this year, as they will host the Old Dominion Monarchs in Blacksburg at Lane Stadium. So give me the Hokies to defeat ODU. West Virginia, out of the Big 12, will go to Mizzou to play the Missouri Tigers out of the SEC, who lost to the Wyoming Cowboys this past weekend on the road, 37-31, with new quarterback Kelly Bryant. Austin Kendall, also a new quarterback for West Virginia, former Oklahoma QB, transferred to Morgantown after Will Grier graduated and got drafted in the NFL by the Carolina Panthers. Missouri on paper, probably a little bit better. Missouri lost to Wyoming, as I said last week, on the road. West Virginia almost had a close scare against James Madison at home. This will be Neil Brown's first big true road test as the West Virginia head coach, traveling to Columbia to play the Tigers. But I'm going to pick West Virginia. I'm going to take the Mountaineers over the Missouri Tigers. So, hey, WVU, don't let your boy down. Vanderbilt at Purdue in West Lafayette. Got to pick the Big Ten there, so give me the Boilermakers over the Commodores. I think Purdue will bounce back after losing on a game-winning 56-yard field goal last weekend last Friday night to Nevada on the road, a game that they should have won in my opinion, but hey, that's why they play the games. Texas A&M and Clemson. This game will not disappoint. Jimbo Fisher coached at Florida State for how long? Left to go to Texas A&M 2 years ago, and the second game he coached at Texas A&M last year as the Aggie head coach was at home versus a familiar coach and familiar opponent from the ACC in Clemson, and they almost pulled away with the win there. As I said earlier, lost by 2 because Clemson came back and won, but now A&M has to go to Death Valley. Florida State, when they would play at Clemson with Jimbo Fisher as the head coach, really didn't have a whole lot of success. A&M, I know they're SEC. It's SEC, ACC, SEC, Big 12 with LSU, Texas later on at 7:30. So 2 big games on ABC, 3:30 and 7:30 on Saturday with Texas A&M and Clemson and LSU and Texas. So those are the 2 big games this weekend. But long story short, I think Clemson, because they're playing at home, Heisman Trophy favorite, and Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts in that conversation now as well, according to Las Vegas, along with Jonathan Taylor and Tua Tagovailoa still, as it's only 1 week down, 14 more to go before Heisman Saturday. But because Clemson's playing at home, give me the Tigers over the Aggies. I know I said A&M could be a surprise team this year. I actually have them in a New Year's Six bowl game. I believe the Orange Bowl against Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and look at my college football preview as I did that within the past couple weeks. Hell, if you guys want to go check that out, be sure to go do so. It's right here on Gridiron Ring's YouTube channel. Also, check out my NFL preview for the year, and be sure to keep an eye out for NFL Week 1 predictions as well. But yeah, Texas A&M Clemson should be a damn good game. I'm thinking, I would hope everybody wants a good game with these 2 schools. But Clemson will beat A&M because they're playing at home, I think. It'll come down to the wire, though, for sure. It'll come down to the wire. Another game that'll probably come down to the wire, former Big 12 member Nebraska will travel to Colorado to play the Buffaloes. And Nebraska picked up a big win to start the year off right, unlike last year in Scott Frost's first year as the Cornhusker head coach. Nebraska lost, I don't know how many games last year, by a few points, and ended up not 500, not going bowling. This year, though, defeated South Alabama last week by 2 touchdowns. And really, and Scott Frost said it, well, if they wouldn't have had a couple turnovers in that game because of their defense, the black shirt defense that a lot of people have been saying after this past weekend is going to be coming back. If they didn't have those turnovers, they would have been in a dogfight with South Alabama, of all teams. Nothing against South Alabama, but still, it's Nebraska football. You shouldn't be that bad. Nebraska football hasn't been good, though, in quite some time. So Scott Frost, that's why they hired him. He's hoping to get the Cornhuskers back on top in the world of college football. And I think they'll start out 2-0 this year. Nebraska, I think, will defeat Colorado, a game that they should have won last year as well in Lincoln. I remember this game, I was heading on down to Pittsburgh for the Penn State Pitt game last year and listening to this game on the radio, and Colorado ended up defeating the Cornhuskers on the road. So I think the away team, obviously they won last year, I think the away team will win once again this year, that being Nebraska, though. This time around, Penn State a week later this year, next weekend, unlike last year. San Diego State and UCLA, give me the Bruins over the Aztecs. San Diego State only put up 6 points this past weekend and won by a score of 6-0. Offensively for Rocky Long and San Diego State, you got to get something going up against Chip Kelly and UCLA. I know UCLA really hasn't looked like Chip Kelly's Oregon teams yet, but it's getting there. He's going back old school, though, too. He's going 3 tight ends. He's got everybody in there blocking, and he's running the ball. He's not, shotgun 5 wide. Oh, let's chuck the ball over the middle and, get the playmakers out in space and, try to get in the end zone. Obviously, yeah, the key is to get in the end zone and score touchdowns, but he's seeing what's working. and they host the San Diego State Aztecs on Saturday, and I think UCLA will win and bounce back from their season from last year. I know that's last year, but they should have won last week against Cincinnati on the road, but they shot themselves in the foot too many damn times, and that's why they lost by 10. And if they do the same thing again this weekend, they'll probably lose again. That goes for anybody, including UCLA. But I think UCLA will pick up the win and defeat San Diego State. UCF, Florida Atlantic, Knights over the Owls. BYU, Tennessee. Tennessee football, I said it on Saturday, they haven't been relevant since Peyton Manning was there in the late 90s. They did have some good teams in Philip Fulmer's later years before he retired. BYU coming off a loss to Utah in the Holy War this past Thursday night. The game was on Thursday. A lot of football this past weekend. There was games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Game last night. Game going on right now with Notre Dame and Louisville, as I said. But Tennessee on Saturday, they lost to Georgia State. They were a 25-point favorite at home, and they lost by 8. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. Something needs to happen. Something needs to change in Knoxville. So BYU, they'll win. Cougars on the road. Buffalo, Penn State, giving the Nittany Lions. LSU, Texas. Texas at home. Should be a damn good game, though. Ed Orgeron and LSU, the Tigers, coming into Austin to play the Texas Longhorns, led by Tom Herman. Texas defeated Louisiana Tech big this past weekend. LSU with a big win as well over Georgia Southern, I believe it was. But this is, the first big test for both teams, including Texas A&M and Clemson, going back to that game because A&M beat, who the hell did A&M beat? They beat somebody. Clemson beat Georgia Tech, blew them out by halftime. LSU and Texas winners by halftime as well. So those two games, I know I'm talking a lot about them, but those are the two big games of the weekend. And if you get a chance to sit down and watch them on ABC on Saturday, I highly would recommend watching Texas A&M and Clemson and LSU and Texas. So I'm going to pick both home teams. I'm going orange this weekend, minus Tennessee. Give me BYU over Tennessee, but give me Clemson and Texas to win at home over A&M and LSU. Nevada at Oregon. Nevada won on a game-winning 56-yard field goal, as I mentioned there earlier, over Purdue last Friday night by a true freshman kicker. Oregon on the road last week, neutral site versus Auburn to start the year off, and they lost on a Bo Nix game-winning touchdown pass with about 20 seconds left, 27-21. A game they, should have won, to be honest with you, but, that's why they play the games, folks. Justin Herbert went down with an injury and was probably regretting coming back to school at that point, but then he ended up coming back in the game. Didn't really play a whole lot, afterwards. Didn't play great afterwards, I should say. Not a whole lot. He played every snap he was in the game for, obviously. No shit, Luke. Come on. But, yeah, Nevada, Oregon. Oregon playing at home in Eugene. Tough place to play. I know Nevada on the top of the world right now with, that big win over Purdue, 56-yard game-winning field goal. But Oregon at home. Give me the Ducks over the Wolfpack. Western Michigan, Michigan State, Sparty over the Broncos. No question there. Woo Pig. I think Arkansas is going to defeat Ole Miss. Ole Miss didn't really look that good on Saturday versus Memphis on the road. Arkansas, they won by like 6 against whoever the hell they played. But, Arkansas, really, Arkansas football, same thing with Tennessee. Arkansas hasn't been relevant probably since Darren McFadden was there, and that's pushing 12 years ago now. So, Arkansas, I think, will win. I mean, the future's bright for Arkansas more so than Tennessee. Talk SEC football. Tennessee lost to Georgia State, for God's sakes. Penn State beat them like 56-0 last year, the year before. And then Tennessee is a 25-point favorite at home, and they lose by 8. Come on. Like I said, something's got to give. Something's got to change. But Arkansas, with Chad Morris at the helm, a very, very young team. I mean, Morris had success at SMU. It's just he's got to be able to recruit, and I know he can. He's just got to be able to recruit and be able to put everything together and just go out and win football games. I know they're playing the SEC West, and Alabama has been dominant, since Nick Saban arrived. You also have LSU and Auburn and Texas A&M. So Arkansas over Ole Miss. ACC though, Miami, Florida. They're off this past week after playing week 0 versus Florida. Florida was also off. So Miami, Florida will play at North Carolina in Chapel Hill. I think Mac Brown gets to 2-0 in his return to UNC. Out west now, the late games on Saturday night, 2 in the Pac-12. Cal and Washington and Stanford and USC. First one, Cal and Washington. Give me the Huskies over the Bears. Could be a very, very interesting game on Saturday night. Cal with Justin Wilcox, their defense could shut down Jacob Eason and the Washington Huskies. Eason, former Georgia quarterback who transferred and is now replacing Jake Browning, who actually just got cut by the Minnesota Vikings on Saturday as NFL teams had to make cuts with the preseason now over. Regular season just around the corner starting on Thursday. Could be a very, very interesting, good game late Saturday night. So I would highly recommend watching that one as well. That's a very under-the-radar game, I do believe. But I'm going to pick Washington because they're playing at home. I think it will come down to the wire. But I think Washington, because they're playing at home, the Huskies will defeat the Golden Bears from Cal. Cal-Stanford banned on the field. Stanford plays at USC. This is the battle of backup quarterbacks now out west in the Pac-12. It was supposed to be KJ Costello for Stanford versus JT Daniels for USC, but Costello, who knows if he's going to play this week, he might be out for a couple weeks. USC lost JT Daniels to a torn ACL, so he's out all season. Clay Helton, his seat just got a little hotter, I do believe, just because I don't know how USC is going to play now. We'll find out on Saturday. Stanford, though, they did look good, even without Costello, against Northwestern at home last week, defeating the Wildcats 17-7. So give me Stanford on the road to defeat USC in LA at the Coliseum. And then Minnesota, Fresno State, give me the Bulldogs over the Golden Gophers. Normally I would pick the Big Ten in these type of games, but Fresno State, I picked them last week against USC. They came up just short. Should have won that game, I do believe, still because JT Daniels went down right beforehand. But Fresno State coming off that big year last year as well. 12 wins, Mountain West title, and won the Las Vegas Bowl as well. So Fresno State, I think, will defeat Minnesota to end week 2 in college football. And then from here on out, starting this weekend, all college football games will either be on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. We're not going to have to worry about no Sunday or Monday games. That's only week 1 because the NFL, hasn't started by that point. Now, come bowl season, yeah, they'd be, every day of the week basically. And then at that point too, college football is done and over with for the year, and then we got to wait till next year, which is sad and disappointing. But it is what it is. Life goes on. So yeah, that's week 2 in college football. Once again, Virginia, Boise State, Ohio State, Michigan, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, Purdue, and Clemson, along with Nebraska, UCLA, UCF, BYU, Penn State, Texas, Oregon, Michigan State, Arkansas, North Carolina, Washington, Stanford, and Fresno State are my week 2 picks in college football. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Gridiron Ring and myself, Cohan Luke 96, on social media. Links are in the description below. Go check out my NFL preview for the year, and keep an eye out for my NFL Week 1 predictions as well. And I hope to see everybody this weekend on Periscope, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and next Monday.